Oh, that was so bad. My gosh. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, which allows me to tell my dad that I am not a failure. I am just pre-successful. And today I want to talk to you all about Canadian passport renewal, and I don't know if you remembered, a few months back I casually mentioned this. I have to renew my passport now or I will no longer be able to be accepted into almost every single country in the world. Yeah, finally, after a few months of arduous journey, I finally got my passport back. And let me tell you, this is one of the worst experiences I have ever had dealing with any government agency in the entire Western world. And I have been to a lot of countries in Europe and North America, so it is an extremely impressive feat. And today I want to divide this video into three parts. First part is my exact experience. So these are the information I can 100% guarantee you that is true. And the second thing is all of the information I've gathered along the way from passersby, from the officials, as well as from other strangers and friends I have made along the way. And the third thing is all of the recommendations I'll give to you if you want to renew your passport in the next few months. So let's begin with my absolutely horrible experience renewing my Canadian passport. Okay, let's start with where everyone started. I'm just like you and all of the other people who are wishing to renew the passport. I googled how I can do it as easily as possible, and I found out that there is a new simplified renewal process that you can simply mail it in. So I did that in early April because I calculated that on the website it says about 35 business days. And for me, traveling the summer, it should be more or less just enough, right? So I decided to do that because my passport has run out of pages. Yeah, so I actually have traveled so much about this on this traveling channel that I have blown through the entire 36 pages that is provided on the normal passport within about 2 or 3 years, pandemic excluded, of course. So I decided to mail it in around April, and a month and a half passed. Normally, I should have received my passport by now, but I didn't hear one single thing from the office, so I was very confused. So for the first thing I searched up is that how can I possibly request some kind of status update? And yes, indeed, online in the official website of Passport Canada, you can actually submit a form, and within 3 business days, according to them, that they will get back to you about where your passport is in the application pipeline. So I did that, and a week passed and nothing happened. And then another 2 days, finally someone called me onto my phone and told me that, hey, your passport application is filled differently. And I was just like, what? What do you mean? He said, your passport is not expiring and it's not expired, so you cannot apply for a simplified passport renewal process because it's only for expiring passports. I was just like, okay, so what should I do? Because my passport is not expiring, but I have no pages left. And if you have no empty space for the foreign immigration officials to stamp their passports, you cannot travel internationally, fun fact. So I was very, very confused. And then she stumbled across a few random questions and then was very confused. And she asked me, hey, what do you want to do? I was just like, you called me and you are the official. What do you mean that you don't know what to do? And later she came back to me and said with a jubilant voice that, hey, I found something that I can potentially do for you. I was just like, okay, what? And she said that you can file for a damaged passport. You see that your passport, I can hold it in my hand right now. Is that a little bit crumbly? Has it suffered any water damage? I was just like, yeah, actually, in the first trip I took with this passport, I was walking in the jungle of Costa Rica with heavy downpour, and it suffered quite a little bit of water damage near the top of the passport. So it got a little bit wrinkly after you dried it out, right? But it has absolutely no influence about, how you can use this passport, because ever since then I've traveled enough distance and to enough countries that have run out of pages on this passport. Not one single immigration officials, even Canadians' own immigration officials, complained about whether the passport's digital part is readable, or perhaps the pages are too crumbly, or perhaps that the color is not correct, or maybe it's too flimsy. No, not one single person complained about these water damage, and it is absolutely 100% usable. And then she's just like, yeah, but still, you need to file for a damaged passport and then you can get your new passport. I was just like, okay, cool. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. And then the later next day, I received this email contained with a special 206 form that I'm supposed to fill it in, along with an explanation of why I had my passport damaged and why I should take care of the passport a little bit better later, which is just hilarious. It is absolutely a clown show. So I did that and I mailed it back immediately the next day along with my signatures and everything. And it just went silent again. Yeah, for a solid month or so, I couldn't hear anything back from them. I didn't even know they received my email or not, so I started to panic because my trip was supposed to start in late June, right? So for me, I just don't know what to do. So I started, going to panic mode. First thing is that I replied in the email that I happened to get, and then I received no replies. And then I started calling the number that everyone's calling. I called a minimum at least 150 times on every single kind of device I can get my hands on, and not one single person picked up. So I went into full panic mode. So the first thing I know is that I need to go to the nearby passport renewal processing center so I can actually go and perhaps ask about the update, right? Because I couldn't call and ask about my update, even though I know exactly my case number and I know exactly what the information I need to provide. I just couldn't get to a human agent that can help me. So the only way to get the information was to show up at the office. I was promptly turned down at the passport office because the security doesn't know anything and you're not allowed to go inside without an appointment, or you have lined up outside. So I went out to the line. At the time, it was about 2:30 p.m. It was on a Tuesday and I was traveling on a Saturday. So I asked the guy in the front to say, hey, since when have you been lining up? And he said, oh, I've been here since 2. So I was just like, hey, now it's 2:30 and you started lining up when it's 2, just 30 minutes and you got to the front of the line? That was awesome. So I would start lining up right now as well. And he said, no. I start lining up at 2 a.m. Yeah, he's been sitting there for 12 hours and I was absolutely dumbfounded. I couldn't possibly imagine starting at 2 a.m. and then couldn't even get in when the first wave of the applicants got allowed in the early a.m. hours. And I was shocked. And then he told me that he even has almost no hope of getting in because there's something else that is happening. You see, in the line that is only for people who are for walk-in only, right? They are trying to extract the people who are traveling imminently because, that is kind of stupid that they filed in for their applications months ago and they couldn't even get their passport back. And now their travel is extremely imminent within the next 1 or 2 days. And they couldn't even get their passport via walk-in through the most urgent process. So they are trying to go along the line and ask people, hey, do you have your passport need for the next 1 or 2 days? So they would take those people out of the line and put them in the front. So yeah, this guy is traveling in the next few weeks instead of next few hours. So he is not allowed to go in with the normal flow. He will have to wait for every single other person who has been before him has been processed in order to go in. So I was just like, okay. So normally I would think about coming in, just, line up the entire overnight and just camp overnight. But now since I'm traveling this soon, perhaps I can try to, come in Thursday, because usually he will say that if you have trouble within 2 days, they will pull you forward. If it's 3 days, it's almost impossible. So I say, okay, I travel on a Saturday, I come in on a Thursday, I can get it processed that day, and perhaps I can get it on Thursday or perhaps Friday. That should be perfect, right? So I showed up on Thursday, 10 a.m. That was the scene I saw. Yeah. This is absolutely insane. The line not only meandered out of the mall parking lot, went onto the main boulevard, and went all the way to the other entrance of the mall. Okay, this is how long the line was. It was a scorching summer day, and it was absolute torture. And I was at the end of the line. I made friends with the guy in front of me, Joshua. Hey, shout out to you, homie. Thank you for letting me, keeping my place when I went for all the bathroom breaks and all of the lunch breaks. But yeah, that was what happened. I was standing at the end of the line, and within about 1 or 2 hours, nothing happened. Okay, nothing happened. Well, not one single person came over to ask if I'm traveling imminently, because Joshua, who is in front of me, also needs to travel that weekend. And then, yeah, not one single person came to ask if we need any assistance, because there are other people with disabilities, there are other people suffering from heat strokes. They are just, absolute chaos, right? And also the line did not move 1 single inch. And then later, finally someone asked that if we are traveling imminently. They walked down the entire queue and then said that, yeah, if anyone's traveling tomorrow on Friday, we'll give you absolutely special priority so that you can get processed today. And then if you're traveling over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we will also give you priority that you should be able to get processed today, right? I waited for about 4 hours-ish. Around 3 p.m. finally they decided that they could not take in any more people for the day, and we barely moved about 20 to 30 spots. There are about 200 people in the line. So they started giving us this ticket, okay? This is the only proof that you are allowed to come back as a priority and you do not have to line up the next day, okay? This is the only proof. So they give you this ticket if you're traveling absolutely urgently, okay? And that is what I had for lining up outside in the scorching sun for 4.5 hours-ish on Thursday. So I took that ticket and I guarded with my dear life, and I showed up next morning around opening time with this ticket around 8:30 in front of the office. And I was told that there are a lot of people who got this ticket because almost 60 people got this ticket as they are traveling in either on Friday that day, so that was Friday, remember? And also over the weekends. So I was absolutely shocked that I was at the end of another line that was supposed to be absolutely urgent. So we lined up that line. And when the office opened, about half of that line went inside, right? The other half is reserved for the appointment crew folks. After about 30, 40 minutes or so, we were allowed to go in, right? And here is another clown show inside the office. So outside the office, technically they don't care what happens. Inside the office was bad. Like real bad. It was full-on chaos. So when I first went to the office, there are two lines, okay? So the left line is basically the same as the right line. They are the exact same thing. They just are funneling you towards agents who will take a look of your travel date as well as all of your application process. That they will say, okay, your materials are okay, we'll put you onto the queue, right? And then you will start waiting. So here's the funny part. There are 4 agents working on these 2 lines. Guess what happened? Me and Joshua end up on the same, basically exact same spot on both of the line, but because I'm on the right line and he is on the left line, the left line gets processed by 3 people, while the right line gets processed by 1 person. So by the time Joshua got his entire application processed and he got onto the queue, which got him onto the priority line for number 20, I was not even moving. I was barely moving 1 or 2 spots because one line was 3 times faster than the other, because it's just absolute clown show. They didn't even know that 2 lines are supposed to be taken evenly from both sides. No. Just 3 people processing this line, 1 person processing the other line, because that is just perfectly making sense, right? So by the time I got my number, I was priority line number 38. Okay, just this one tiny difference when we are lining up made a huge difference. He'll probably get processed more than 3 or 4 hours ahead of me just because he stood in the correct lane, right? So after that, we started waiting. And we waited, and we waited. And then for the priority, it started with priority number 1, and then priority number 2, priority number 3, and finally it jumped to priority number 5. And we were very confused. Okay, priority number 4 got skipped, but whatever. And then quickly it jumped into priority number 12, priority number 17, 18, 19, 20, except 20 never came. Joshua was priority number 20, but he never received the call for him to go submit his application. Instead, it jumped to 25, 26, 29, 30 something. And I was like, hey, I'm number 38. I'll get called soon, right? But all of the folks who got skipped were just absolutely dumbfounded. So a mob, like basically a tiny mob of people, were just running around the office trying to chase down every single rogue agent and ask them what happened. And one of them said, okay, I'll go back to check, right? So she went back to the back office, came out and just said, oh yeah, we're trying to prioritize people who need to travel first, right? So people who need to travel on Friday will get put to the absolute front. So the number doesn't even matter that much. So Saturday afterwards and then Sunday. So they said, okay, but then wait. There are a few people we knew over the line that they are traveling next Tuesday and they also got processed. What's happening? And she just couldn't respond. And later it turned out that one of the people on the left lane who processed the all of these applications, right? One of the 3 people, he doesn't even care about travel date. He simply just writes down, okay, you are good to go. I'll give you a number, you're done, right? So if he doesn't give them a travel date, they don't know to prioritize these guys who got processed by this dude into the front of the line. So there are a few guys who are traveling literally the next day on a Saturday, same as me, right? And then they just couldn't do anything. It's just so stupid. So they say, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. Then they start putting these guys back into the line to the front of me. So I ended up getting processing really, really late. So finally, after almost 5 hours-ish, so around 1:32 p.m., I finally got my number called, priority number 38, and I showed up at the stall. Finally, I can get my passport. I submitted my things and he said, oh, you're traveling next day? I was just like, yeah, so please process it right away and print my passport right away. I know you print your last batch around 3:30. So before you guys close at 4, I really, really, really need my passport. And he said, okay, well, we'll do what we want. So after a while, he processed it and I'm just like, wait, that's bad, right? And then he called over the manager, and here is the most hilarious thing, okay? This is the part, the punchline of the entire joke, the clown fest that is this entire process. So he went over it and just like, I don't know what this code is. And he called a superior over, and the superior just like, yeah, I don't know what it is. And then the other guy just like, yeah, this is bad, right? And he's like, yeah, this is bad. I was just like, oh no, what's going on? Maybe they never even processed my information of my email, right? So no, it actually turned out, here's the joke, right? It turned out that because I was lining up in these lines on Tuesday, the entire thing got mailed around last Sunday or so. So it arrived into my doorstep exactly on Tuesday when I was talking with a guy trying to get information because I was so frustrated. So my passport has been sitting in the local post office for a solid 4 days. Yeah, this is so stupid. They never even notified me they processed my passport, and it's actually been sitting just about half a kilometer away from me. And then I had to go through all of these ordeals just because the entire organization is a mess. And guess what? Because I was so stressed out about all of these passport things, I never bothered to check my mail over the entire 4-day period because, I spent 3 of them lining up under the sun. I almost got a heat stroke as well.
16 paranoia-filled days later.
But after that, I will try to tell you all of the information I have gathered with Joshua as well as all of the others over the period of about 3 days lining up in the line, and I'll tell you all of the recommendation afterwards. Okay, the first thing is that this happened around late June, okay? If you're watching this in a later period or perhaps a later year, the situation might have changed drastically. And also the second thing is that these are only the things I can gather indirectly by asking people, by inferring from certain situations, or just by gathering from other sources. So I cannot guarantee you it is 100% reliable. So the first thing is that people line up for a long time. I asked a few people in the front of the line, the first day that I started lining up, so it's Thursday, when I lined it up, the person who was at the front of the line did not get in until about 3 p.m. and he started lining up about 5 p.m. the day before. So he was in line for about 22 hours. And the second thing is that almost every single person has mailed their things in, right? They have mailed their things in, they tried to wait it out, but after 2 months, 3 months, they never got their passport back, so they decided that they have to go to the passport office. Almost every single person is like that. And then another thing is that you need to get an appointment really far away, right? So if you want to get an appointment, you should get it a long time ago. But if you want to get an appointment right now, when we were in the line, they say that the closest place where you can get an appointment and try to get it settled was Saskatoon, right? I'm in Vancouver. Just to give an example, you have to fly, okay? And then another thing is that the phone line is just absolutely atrocious. There's a lady that was about 3 spots in front of me on Thursday, so we all became friends, right? She adopted 3 children who are autistic, and one of them need to have their passport renewed. So yeah, imagine waiting in the scorching sun with 3 autistic kids, and they are not allowed to leave, to basically go back or leave the line because they need to make sure that they somehow manage to get in. And she was traveling in August, and she had to be in the line because they lost her application. Yeah, they straight up just lost her application. And how did she know? She called in around 5:30 a.m. Western Pacific time. So she called in, and then after waiting for about 2 hours, she finally got picked up because all of them seem to be working on Eastern time. So our West Coast folks are completely shafted over. So she finally got the information that the entire thing was received, but it was sitting in a pile and they somehow lost it. So she needs to actually apply in person, brand new, in order to get the passport. Otherwise, she will never get her passport back. Yeah, great job, Passport Canada. And then another person I met who was right in front of me in queue, on Friday was that she mailed her baby daughter's passport application. So the baby daughter was just born. So she mailed it in, and they required to have the birth certificate, okay, the original copy of the birth certificate. So she mailed it in after 3-4 months, nothing back, and she needs to travel imminently, right? So she just said, okay, what can I do now? And they said, oh yeah, just go line up, right? So she lined up, finally got in the office and got called. And when she submitted her application, they told her that we need your original birth certificate. I was just like, no, the baby's birth certificate is sitting with you guys in Mississauga in Ontario. And the only reason that you do not have it on your files is that you are too lazy to open it up. And they say, yeah, we can't do anything without the original birth certificate. How can you get 2 original copies of the birth certificate? How's that even possible? I don't know. So she got rejected because of this, because of the sheer incompetence of Passport Canada. Yeah, these are all of the information I have lined up. Oh, and here's another crazy thing is that it has become a business, sadly. So according to some news reports, as well as the people who are in the front of the line, the first guy who lined up a few days prior was a professional queuer or whatever, queer? No, I don't know. I don't know what's the word for that. So he was basically lining up the day before with all of the bells and whistles. So he will basically camp in front of the entire line, and then the next morning he will start selling all of his positions to other people in order for a profit. I kind of get it, right? It's kind of it's a capitalistic society. Everyone can do whatever they want. But here's the kicker. He didn't sell it to one person. He didn't sell it to 2 people or 3 people. He sold it for a solid 10 people. Okay, imagine you're number 2 in line. You started camping right after he did. You just turned from number 2 into number 11, right? And then apparently, according to rumors, he sold it for more than $2,000. Yeah. Think about Steve Jobs or Jeff Bezos. These can all go away now. Lining up in front of Passport Canada, that's the way to get rich. Like, you're gonna become a billionaire in no time. So yeah, that's all of the crazy information I've gathered. And now, I guess, all of the recommendations from my past traumatic experience if you are renewing your passport in the near future. Okay, first recommendation is that if you do not have a need, that you just want the passport just to be safe, do not apply for a passport right now, whether it's for renewal or a brand new application. Yeah, if you want to go outside the country, you should do it, but no, don't bother yourself with all of these pain right now. Perhaps they will find a solution sooner or later, but right now it is absolutely a disaster. And if you have to travel or you have to renew, consider to do it as early as possible. So if you are traveling within the next 6 months or 7 months, do it the moment that your passport is within the renewal range. So if your passport expires, let's say January 1st, you can apply June 30th, okay? You start applying the moment that you're eligible, so that you have as much leeway as possible. And the second is that if you are applying for this kind of thing, you can mail it in if you're 6 months away. But if you're anywhere close to 4 months away, I would highly suggest you not to do it, because there's a very high possibility that you have to end up doing a walk-in anyway. And then the third thing is that if you have any travel that you're set, do not book anything firm. Do not book a non-refundable airfare. Do not book any unrefundable hotel stays or anything else, because yeah, the Passport Canada is gonna fork you up, And then lastly is that if you really want to apply for a renewal and your travel is within a few weeks, do not mail in whatsoever. Even if your travel is about 2 months away and you think you can get it within 1 month and a half, do not do that, right? Because that's the surefire way to basically lose your original passport and also not get your new passport back. So that's all of the recommendation about this front. And then the second front is that just try to call as early as possible and require status updates as frequently as possible. If you want to get a status update in, like, for example, 2 weeks, do it now. Right? Even on the website, it says they will give it to you within 3 business days. You will be lucky if you can get it within 10 business days. So try to request status updates as early as possible, and then maybe try to keep your channels open, right? And then another thing is that if you have trouble within the next few weeks, try to get an appointment. That's the only thing I can say that it's a surefire way for you to get your passport early enough that you do not suffer crazy high airfares, right? So try to schedule an appointment at least months ahead in advance. Worst thing you can do is actually just cancel it and someone else will get the spot, right? So try to get an appointment somewhere nearby, and if not possible, try to get it anywhere near you, nearby cities or even nearby provinces, because I know appointments can be really hard to get. And then honestly, considering taking other road trips or perhaps even a side trip into Saskatoon, into Whitehorse, or into other places that may not have such heavy caseloads, but if you cannot get an appointment, we resort to the last resort, is that you should go line up in front of the passport office only when you are considered to be urgent. Because let's say that you have traveled within 2 weeks. If you go line up, you are not considered urgent. You're getting constantly pushed back every single day by people who are traveling in the next 48 hours. So you will almost guarantee not make it into the passport office. And then you will basically spend almost minimum 30 to 40 hours in the line just to get your passport renewed when you can travel within the next 2 days, right? When you're falling within the 2 days range, you can show up at the line and then get pulled immediately forward, that you only need to wait 4 to 5 hours in order to get your passport. I know it's very stressful, but honestly, it's less physically demanding than lining up 40 or 50 hours nowadays in the sun. So that's all of the recommendation I can give you, because honestly, this is the worst situation I've ever encountered, and I'm just applying some band-aid fix for you if you want to go to a Canadian passport office. And then they really need to do a lot of things in order to cope with this kind of increased demand. And oh, by the way, remember when I called and then they said that it should be considered a damaged passport in order to proceed? Yeah, you know what? If you file for damaged passport, you never get your old passport back. My old passport has been to every single continent, has stamps from Antarctica, from the Arctic, has important visas to some of the most obscure countries in the world. Just poof, gone. And they didn't even remind me in the phone call or in the email. Yeah, it is just extremely incompetent. Every single person working there, I bet they are trying their best, but the entire organization is a mess. And everything just left such a sour taste in my mouth. So now I don't trust anything Passport Canada is doing now. So neither should you, actually. So yeah, take my advice. All of these recommendations, please take them to heart, because otherwise your entire trip might be in jeopardy. So with all of that out of the way, I hope you enjoyed today's update, and take my apology of why my videos have become so irregular recently, because all of my trip plans have been disrupted. If you would like to hit the like button beneath this video, I would highly appreciate it, because this thing just took away too much brain cells. And then if you want to check out some other videos around here, feel free to check some of the interesting Canadian or American related videos, and also subscribe, okay?